There we go. Now you guys should be able to hear me. What's up? How's everyone doing? I'm just getting this stream situated here. Got the tweets out. Let me know if you guys are coming in, if you can hear me okay, if everything's working. Come in, like the stream, give it a repost, drop a comment, all the usual stuff. All the usual stuff. Let me know if it's good. I see BTC Gypsy already in the house. What's up? Was just coming off of the Wolf Market Talk, Trader Talk space. A lot of good discussion this morning in that space. But yeah, we're gonna pull up some charts. There's a lot of movement, a lot of red in the market today, but there's some green. We'll look at some of the green stuff if we once we finish up with BTC. We'll move over to some of that other stuff. But overall, things are looking pretty good, guys. So come in here, make sure you give it a like, give it a repost, send it out to someone that you think needs to be on this stream, and then we'll pull it up. We'll pull up TradingView. We'll jump into these charts. For the time being, I'm also going to get some of the housekeeping out of the way. As you guys know, everything we do here is just for education and entertainment purposes. I'm not a financial advisor. Wolf is not a financial advisor. We're not registered or licensed to give any kind of financial advice. And we're just not making any kind of recommendations or suggestions to buy or sell anything. We're just talking about some interesting assets and their respective charts more than anything. We're talking about what we think is happening in the market. We're talking about what we're seeing on these charts. And that's really the sole focus of what we do here. Just sharing my opinions, my experience, my what I'm currently doing, my current takes, what I'm currently participating in, and hoping that it brings a little bit of education or at least some entertainment to you guys. So with that, shout out to public.com. If you go public.com/wolf, we've got a very, very special page for you guys to check out there. But Public is the sponsor of this show. And if you've been looking for a new home for your, investment account for your portfolio, and you've not looked at Public, I think you owe it to yourself to go check out Public, especially if you're someone who values innovation and technology, and you're watching this AI craze really start to pick up, and you're watching everything that's happening. People are building, strategies, trading strategies, investment strategies. All of these things with AI. If you've been wondering, like, how do I incorporate that into what I'm doing, into my portfolio, then you really need to go look at what Public is doing, because Public is actually doing exactly that. They're allowing you to use AI across different asset classes, stocks, bonds, crypto, options, and you can use that AI. You can use those agentic tools to truly build a very unique and personalized strategy for yourself, right? It could be personalized specifically to what you're looking to do, how you're looking to play, the time horizon that you're playing on, and you can really build yourself a strong and very robust portfolio for the long haul, and also take advantage of some short-term volatility as well. So check them out, public.com/wolf, and shout out to Public for sponsoring this show here. Let's jump into this. I'm going to switch over to the other chart. We'll pull up TradingView. There we go. And yeah, let's jump into some of these charts here. All right, cool. Beautiful. I'm going to go full screen here. There we go. We'll put that down. All right, so looking at BTC, guys, I mean, we're still we're on the melt. We're on the meltdown. Equities are melting up, crypto's melting down. That probably continues for a little bit longer. I mean, the one chart I would tell you guys to look at is, if you put BTC over equities, I've built it as BTC over SPX plus NDX. There's a lot of different ways you can represent the same exact thing. But we've been talking about this over the last few streams. We've talked about it on my personal streams. We've been talking about it on Wolf Spaces, and that is that Bitcoin is just not holding up very well against equities. And you can see that this move down is actually accelerating. It's not slowing down just yet. I think, potentially around here where this next volume node is, we can maybe see that slow down a little bit. But this is currently accelerating. We're coming up to these 2024 lows here for Bitcoin against equities. And it's just not, when everyone's talking about like, how do we know when the bottom is in and how are we going to, that rotation from equities to Bitcoin, we will know based on this chart. This chart will start to reverse trend the other way. And we'll know that when it looks, when it looks something like this, that this is Bitcoin outperforming against equities. But when it looks the other way, which is this way, that's Bitcoin underperforming against equities, right? This is when Bitcoin is not outperforming equities. So it does look, I mean, you can have all the fundamental reasons of why you think this shouldn't be happening and how ridiculous it is and how these people that are buying stocks or whatever you might think, but it doesn't change the fact, it does not change the fact that throughout all of Bitcoin's history, dating back, to pre-2010, there are periods where Bitcoin outperforms against equities, and there are periods where it corrects against equities. There's periods where it outperforms against equities, and there's periods where it underperforms against equities. Periods where it outperforms against equities, and then it corrects against equities. This is nothing new, right? It's nothing new. It's just that people get greedy, people forget, people think this time is different, when in fact, it's really not. It's doing the same thing it's done every other time. The main difference is that you had kind of a flat. I mean, you can tell here, right? Every previous bull market for Bitcoin, it has just been parabolic. It's left equities in the dust, left equities in the dust, left equities in the dust. This time we had an interesting phenomenon, and notice that you don't ever really play around with a previous top. You exceed it, don't really come back to it, exceed it, don't really come back to it, exceed it. This is where it started to shift a little bit. Really, since 2021, we started to see a slight character change here, where for the first time, really that move above 2017 was not as pronounced as like what you saw back here, where you had a significantly higher move. Back here, you had a significantly higher move. 2021, it was a little bit above, and you actually dipped back below that 2017 area. So you did have a move that dipped back below that 2017 high. So that was kind of our first indication that some of this momentum was starting to wear off a little bit here. But even then, Bitcoin did have a phenomenal run, but against equities, we saw the same thing, where against equities, you kind of just had a slight deviation above the last cycle high. You didn't see the same thing, right? And I think a lot of this comes down to just economics, money printing, liquidity, things like that. But yeah, we are starting to see that cycle to cycle. It's you're just not getting that much more distance in time above the previous high. This was kind of muted, and then here this was even more so muted. And now, so you have to really start to ask yourself, are we actually coming up into an environment where potentially we're going to revisit near prior lows? I don't know how close we'll get, but this is certainly accelerating. We're about to lose the 2024 lows. At some point we'll move over here towards 2023 lows, right? And then is there a scenario where it even comes down and challenges the 2022 lows against equity? So and this is not my opinion. This is not my speculation. This is just the data on the chart. The data on the chart is showing us that cycle top to cycle top, these gains are being less aggressive. And so when that happens, you also have to consider that could the corrections towards the lows also become more pronounced as well. So we'll be watching this. I mean, BTC against equities is certainly showing some weakness here. If we look at BTC against commodities, similar type of story. It is also coming down, not as quickly as it is against equities, but it is coming down a little bit. Same thing. You've got a 2024 low coming up as well, but you've got quite a bit more room to the downside here, where, against commodities, to get down to like bear market lows, you'd have to see about a 67% drop here in BTC against commodities, as opposed to equities. Against equities, to get down to those bear market lows, you only need about a 40% drop. So it is significantly less. Look, I talked about this Bitcoin versus gold chart. I actually made a post about it, that in my opinion, there's a chance that these lows were not safe. And a big part of of why I said that is these lows that we saw against gold back in 2022, they weren't the typical lows, right? They didn't have really this capitulation style wick to the downside. You actually had a very flat, very flat bottoming structure. And typically, a lot of times in TA, you call those like poor lows, right? Like weak lows. And that's kind of what you're seeing there. If you look at previous cycles, you have a lot of wick. You have that capitulation. You have that sell-off event that a lot of people end up selling into the bottom. Buyers step in. It leaves this big wick. You saw the wicks here. You saw the wick here. Didn't really get that here in 2022. And then what we ended up getting is you got the same thing. You got these kind of flat tops where Bitcoin didn't really break out against gold. It essentially just had like a double top of sorts, right? You had a period in there. You had weeks where you were maybe above the 2021 highs, but nothing significant. If you're looking at it on a quarterly basis, you essentially had equal highs. And so this is starting to come down as well. I think we're going to see for the first time, and this is worth noting, this will be the first time in history, if it happens, this will be the first time in history that Bitcoin on any of the pair charts takes out a prior cycle low, right? This cycle low was not taken out. This one was not taken out. This one's not taken out. This one's not taken out. If we see for the first time something like this, that it comes down and it sweeps these lows down here somewhere, this will be the first time in history. It'll be the first time in all of Bitcoin's history that against any asset, against any metric, against any possible form of measuring, it is going to take out a prior cycle low. And I don't know what that means. I mean, the truth is I don't know what that means. My initial thought is that it's signaling some form of macro weakness, right? Something is changing in the character of Bitcoin and not a positive change. This would be a bearish, a negative change. But I truthfully don't know. I'm not an economist. I don't know. I don't know what it is. I'm a chart guy. I'm a technical analyst. And all I do know is that this would, to me, signal, if we do sweep this low from 2022 down here, the prior cycle low on this Bitcoin gold chart, I start to have to entertain, did we get equal highs? Are we now forming lower lows for the first time ever on a quarterly chart for Bitcoin, lower lows? And is a potential lower high coming for the next cycle, right? Or somewhere before the next cycle? Is there a lower high that will be coming instead of putting in a new high against gold, right? And this is actually very in line with what Northstar talks about. Northstar charts, at Northstar charts, he talks about the capital rotation and how this is a once every 20 years type thing. And Bitcoin hasn't really lived through a capital rotation like this. And so this is the first time Bitcoin is around during a capital rotation of this type, right? This kind of plays into that. This to me, I mean, aligns with that thesis that if there is some kind of macro capital rotation happening in Bitcoin, this could be what it looks like. And then ultimately, I mean, if you put in a lower high here, you put in a lower low, and then you end up getting next cycle. So if this cycle's bear market low against gold is a lower low compared to last cycle, and next cycle's market top is a lower high compared to this cycle, then I think you have to entertain. I mean, it's not that I want this, but you have to entertain the possibility that Bitcoin is going to go on a larger correction over a longer period of time against some of these other asset classes. That Bitcoin has been in a just super cycle of outperformance, and it's now cooling off. It's not just correcting this cycle, but it's potentially correcting its entire existence for the first time. So I have no idea. I have no idea what that would look like. I have no idea how bad that could get or how tame that could be. I don't really know. But we're just talking about the possibilities and what this might be signaling here on this chart. So for now, look, I mean, for all the bear market deniers, for everyone that said that the bottom was absolutely in and there's no chance we're coming back to these lows, we don't know if we're going to break 60K yet, but this certainly is getting some acceleration to the downside. I believe there probably will be a bounce sooner than later. It's, at that point, it's very likely that you're going to hit this. I think. Um, we'll see if that gets hit, and then buyers step in, and then this kind of forms a little bit of a consolidation here, and then we'll have to see if enough buyers can step in to move this higher, or if ultimately that just ends up coming back down, sweeping these lows, and then there's the possibility for a bounce after something like that. There also could be the possibility for just a significantly lower move, right? A deeper corrective move. So let me check these comments real quick. Yo, what's up, Crank? Yeah, dude, it's not, it is what it is. I think you're on the right side of it in that, because you talk about this on your streams a lot, which is you're seeing Bitcoin as a cash cow. You're seeing it as an opportunity to generate profits, to better your life, to start your businesses, to do whatever you want to do. And you're not marrying the asset at this point. Maybe you still have a forever bag, but you're not marrying yourself to the idea that this thing has to go up forever only and it never corrects and it couldn't possibly go into a lost decade or something like that, right? You're going to trade it. You're going to trade it during this entire time. I think that's the correct take. I think we need to look at it through that lens. My take has been similar, but I've based it, and you've heard me talk about this. I've based it simply on the fact that the story changed. When I first really took a look at Bitcoin and I came into it and decided that I wanted to buy my first BTC back in 2017, it was because it was the alternative to fiat. It was in a class of its own. It was a way of opting out. It was all these things, right? It was the middle finger to the government. It was the play against institutional control, against central banking, against all that stuff. And then somewhere along the lines, greed took over, and the same people that the Bitcoin community was so against, saying we didn't need them, we were building our own financial rails, we were building our own form of money, we were doing all these things, suddenly turned into we need them to buy our bags, we need all of these guys to buy in, they're going to pump our bags. And as soon as that started shifting, man, I just lost it. Opened up my eyes, unfortunately, to the religious and cult side of it, and I lost some of that interest. And it's not to say that Bitcoin doesn't have strong fundamentals. Like, I just want to make that clear. I don't think any of us would still be here in the crypto and Bitcoin world if we didn't believe in it to some extent, right? If we didn't think it was a revolutionary asset, if we didn't think it had the potential to change the world. But what it did for me, though, is it woke me up that I needed to learn to trade this stuff. I was like, I got to be able to get in, I got to get out, I got to know when to buy, when to sell. And I need to recognize that there are periods where it's going to correct, and there could be a larger correction coming for a while where, all the OGs that bought this stuff, in $100 or under $100, the people that have the wallets that have more Bitcoin than even the richest person in the world today could even fathom being able to purchase. There's people out there, and they got it for nothing. They got it for pennies, for dollars, for absolutely nothing, and they're sitting there, right? So I think until some of those people rotate out and there's a distribution from old hands into new hands, I think it could be a while. I'm in for the multiple. Yep. And governments and companies are going to pump it. I do think they will. I also know that governments, bankers, all these guys, they don't want to overpay if they don't have to. So I think that they will look for every and any opportunity to also buy it for cheaper as well. So certainly could be the case, man, but anyways, I mean, back to this chart, we are still bleeding. I mean, I've been keeping an eye on the 15-minute. I'm not seeing any kind of buy volume come in. There's nothing here. This is still on an absolute decline. We're getting spikes of selling, but we're not getting any kind of substantial buying. The last time that we were looking at, a potential bounce was like over here. But even that, we talked about, man, but this is still weaker. Even the buy volume here is still weaker than the last couple sells. So, we were looking at it last night, but it was not screaming buy me yet. It's just not. And it still isn't screaming buy me. Could you maybe, if you're spot buying, could you be DCAing here? Sure. I think that's a totally different strategy compared to trading it. But I mean, it's like at this point, if there's a potential, like if we're here at 67.2 if there's a potential that it's going to sweep 64, 65, why wouldn't you just wait? Like, what's really the rush that you're going to miss out on? Let's say it does pump back up to 70K or something. What, you're going to miss a 5% pump? You're worried about a 5% pump? Like, to me, it's just sit tight and wait. Sit tight and wait. You might get it at a 5% discount as well from here. Maybe that doesn't matter, but the way I see it is like, if you're measuring it in terms of like risk to reward, it's like, okay, so what? Best case, let's say it pumps up to 75 up here. But you've also got an opportunity to maybe get it back at 60K, a break of 60. That's only about a 1-to-1 risk to reward. It's not, it's maybe good for a trade, but I don't think it gives you any kind of real edge. So I think you just wait. I think we wait here. It's either going to pump up and confirm that a bottom is put in here and you just buy in on strength, or it's going to break down lower and you're going to get a much better price. I don't see a lot of advantage to trying to buy here. I'm usually not a fan of buying anywhere inside these high volume nodes on like the daily or weekly chart. This to me is not where the edge is. To me, the edge is where they drop off completely, like where the big dips are. That's where the value is. So I'd say there's not a lot of edge or a lot of value in buying here. If we go out to the weekly chart for BTC, we're probably going to see a similar picture here. Let's let that load. Yeah, you're right in the volume node. This is fair value. This is like where you're getting the same price that everyone else is getting. You're not getting any kind of discount. You're not a smart buyer. You're none of that, right? This is the retail buying zone. This is where everyone that doesn't know anything other than I need to buy because everyone else is buying. This is where that's happening. You're buying because everyone else is buying. This is where the fair value is currently of BTC going back to 2024. This is that average cost that the market is telling you, like, yeah, most people own it here. So you're not getting a good deal. You're getting an average deal. You're getting what everyone else is paying for it. If we're talking about this like in car auto terms, you're buying it here at MSRP, maybe even above that. You're buying MSRP. You're not, let's call this MSRP. You're paying what the manufacturer suggested retail price is, right? If you bought it up here a little bit above it, you bought it on a premium. You paid extra, right? They sold you the $1,500 tent with the $5,000 to $10,000 paint protection. They sold you all that stuff, right? They sold you all that crap up here, the $1,000 floor mats and the $500 cup holder. Like you paid a premium if you bought it up here, somewhere up here, right? On this move. Now, if you wait a little bit, you might get an opportunity to buy it down here at invoice or maybe below invoice. You might be able to buy it below invoice, but you're going to have to wait for that sale. If you want to buy this at the price that not most people are paying, you're going to have to wait for it. Otherwise, you're going to pay the same price that everyone else is paying, which is still better than paying over. Still better than overpaying, right? Don't let those finance guys get you up here with all the extra tack on stuff and the document fees and stuff. This is for suckers. That's where the suckers buy up there. That's where the finance guys make their money, right? You don't want to be that guy. You want to be the guy they hate, which is the guy that gets the invoice pricing, gets them to drop the document fee and all that crap. And you say, absolutely not. Here's my cash price. This is what I'm paying out the door. That's down here. That's down here. Just, you got to know what kind of guy, what kind of buyer you are. You got to know what kind of buyer you are. That's the most important thing. If you're okay with just walking on a lot and paying at MSRP and just taking it for a sticker, maybe this is not a bad place. Maybe it's not a bad place. Don't be this guy though. Don't be the guy that buys up there. Don't be that guy. This is the guy that, we've got a waiting list and, these are going really hot and we can't drop the price and blah, 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 blah. Don't be that guy. Don't buy up there just because you get FOMO, But that's just me, man. That's just me. That's just how I like to think about it. Crank knows what's up if he's still listening. He knows exactly what I'm talking about. knows exactly what I'm talking about if he's still on here. All right. Let's look at stablecoin dominance. This thing is flying. So we talked about this level yesterday, right? We said this was the level to watch. If it held, we have to assume upside was going to continue. If we were to see a move back below it, that was probably the top. So far, this is holding. This is holding very, very nicely. We're seeing a nice impulsive move. We are coming up towards the top of this volume profile, though. We will see it starts to drop off here. So at some point, I think we are closer to a little bit of a cool off, and then we'll look on the way down as it's getting a move back down. We could be looking for the potential for a bounce, but right now that's looking pretty healthy. That's looking pretty dang healthy. Don't get smacked. I was the Grim Reaper. I know you were. I know your type, dude. Yeah, I've had many, dude. I've been kicked out of places where I go in there and I don't, I didn't take anyone's crap, man. I remember when I first started dating my wife, man. We went to a furniture store because there was a liquidation sale. Man, I got kicked out of that store because I walked in there and right away, dude, I was calling them on all their BS. You know what I mean? I was like, nah, you guys marked this up. And I'd pull out my phone. I was looking up prices online. I was like, dude, I can get this for this much. And I'm willing to travel. And you guys got to drop it, man. They ended up kicking me out. I walked out, man, cussing them out and telling them, hey, everyone in here, y'all are getting scammed by these guys. You can buy it cheaper down the road. Oh man, yeah. But I've always been that guy, dude. I don't like overpaying. I hate overpaying. My last the last 3-4 vehicles that we've bought have all been at below market value. I've bought them all, and I could have flipped every single one of them within the day for a profit. I bought it. So that's just how I am, dude. I mean, I don't know if it's the Hispanic part of me, but I'm always looking for a deal, dude. I'm always looking for a deal. I hate overpaying. I don't even like to pay fair value deals. I need a deal. I need a deal, baby. So I'm the same way with crypto, dude. I'm the same way with investments. I wait for the deal or I just don't buy. I'm not a buyer. It's my money. I buy when I want to buy. But that's just how I am, dude. But yeah, your past life and me were mortal enemies, man. I didn't make your life any easier, and you hated me. But look, I respect it. Everyone's that's the grind, and there's a lot of folks that will go in there and get smacked, and that's on them. That's on them. Yo, let's look at Ethereum though. I've been watching this ETH BTC chart like a hawk. So ETH against Bitcoin. Here, let me remove some of the noise. So let's zoom out. Number one. So this is ETH against BTC, right? This was last year, April. Ethereum went to $1,400, essentially put in this low right at around the same level that it put in this low back in 2019. Pretty close. I mean, it's within, it's within margin, right? Like you were, within 8% or something like that of that prior low. So pretty close, pretty dang close, right? You're within that same area. And everyone thought ETH was dead. ETH was going to zero. ETH was broken. Solana's the future, all these other Sui's the future, all that other stuff. ETH came, put in that bottom, absolutely went on a ripper. Since then, it's been correcting that ripper of a move. It's been correcting it here on the ETH BTC pair, right? So this rip here was Ethereum outperforming against BTC, meaning Ethereum went up faster than Bitcoin went up, right? During this period. They both could be going up, but Ethereum was going up faster. This correction here, this period where it's trending down, this means that Ethereum is actually underperforming against BTC. So Bitcoin could be going up, Ethereum is going down, or Ethereum is not going up as fast. Point being, Bitcoin is the faster horse here, so Ethereum's pulling back and correcting. Now, the one reason really why I'm paying attention here is because we're nowhere near this low. Number one, we're nowhere near that low again. And if you notice, like, a lot of you are familiar with CME gaps, right? Like in the traditional markets, you have CME gaps, you have gaps. they form over the weekend, basically when the market is closed, right? Between the way it closed on Friday and the way it opens on a Monday. Sometimes there's a big gap and those gaps get filled. Well, you get the same thing in even 24-hour markets, you get the same thing, but you get it because of these single print moves. They leave what is called fair value gaps, essentially. It's just gaps where price moved up in an impulsive way very quickly, and it doesn't have a lot of chop in here, right? And you can see that because the way you do this is you need 3 candles. Essentially, you need 3 candles, and you need to have a gap between the top of the first one and the bottom of the third one. You can see that there's a gap here where the top of this first one and the bottom of the third one, they're not touching. These wicks are not touching, right? Here's another example of a gap. Bottom of the first one, top of there's another gap right here. That gap got filled. A lot of times you'll see that these actually overlap, right? You have an overlap wick to wick. There are no gaps. There are no gaps, right? So there was this big fair value area here, fair value gap. You could also see it in the volume profile. The volume profile is also telling you this is an area right here that corresponds with that gap over here in the price action, right? So that's also telling you that this is a low volume area. Well, it's coming down and it's filling that. And if you look back in February, you actually had the first drop into this box back in February, and you did it on high volume. So you had a high volume sell-off, came in, found a low, and then slowly started kind of bouncing. Well, we came back down, last month, back below the February low, and we are currently at the open of this month trying to get back above that February low. So ETH is trying to reclaim, ETH BTC here is trying to reclaim that February low. And so if we see this close back up here above that February low, and if we can reclaim that, hold that on a weekly basis, then I start to get, I start to get a bit more optimistic in the short term that potentially this is going to try and hold this as a bounce here. And, ultimate confirmation, of course, is getting above this high here. So if we do get a bounce here and it can flip the Feb low to support, ultimately you still want to see this April high right here taken out. As soon as we see that taken out, then we have at least a confirmation that we're trying to flip this structure here off of a bounce in this zone. And so the reason we're paying attention to this is because if ETH BTC can get some upside here against Bitcoin, right? It doesn't matter if they're both going down or if they're both going up or they're both going sideways. But if Ethereum is outperforming BTC, meaning Ethereum is going up faster or going down slower than BTC, we need to be paying attention, because when Bitcoin does find a bounce, when Bitcoin finds a bottom at some point, once it finds a bottom and it starts to consolidate and kind of go sideways and stabilize after this massive drop, there's a chance that Ethereum could get a little bit of a pop against it, as long as that ETH BTC chart is holding up. So what I'm watching for Ethereum is currently below last month's low, and it is currently heading down. I want to be watching the previous quarter low. So the low from back here in February, March was actually higher than Feb. The low was formed in February, but that low of last quarter, I want to watch that to see if Ethereum maybe comes down still some as BTC is trying to find its footing. And in that process, it sweeps that last quarter low. And if it can get a bit of a bounce here, and if it can, and Bitcoin finds its footing, then based on the ETH BTC chart, if this reclaims this and it holds it here for the weekly close, I'm strongly considering the possibility that Ethereum could be trying to get a short-term bounce. And look, I'd be very aggressive in taking profits on this bounce. If I do take this trade and I do position in that, I'm going to very aggressively be taking profits on the way up. Certainly around this swing high here, I'm going to take a big chunk of it off. Around the previous quarter's high, I'd be taking a big chunk off. And, I'll probably leave a runner just in case it can come back up to the highs and maybe exceed the highs. So we'll have to play that. And then depending on what kind of structure we end up forming here in that process, if this move were to happen and it's forming bullish structure, things could change, and I may have to update this. But look, we do have last year's low slightly below as well. So, if this doesn't happen here, could it be that it needs to come down and sweep last year's low and then try and put in a move higher, maybe a move back up into this area? that would probably be my secondary right, if you will. Like this is kind of the first thing I'm considering is a bounce after sweeping last quarter. If this doesn't happen, it keeps melting, then I'm looking for a sweep of last year's low for a bounce. But then the entry that I'm looking for is actually down here. I'm not going to hold an entry from here at the quarter all the way down. I'm going to wait to see if it can reclaim it. But if it doesn't reclaim it, I'm looking for something down here. If it can sweep and reclaim down here, then I'll look for an entry somewhere down here near last year's low. You know, we'll set this stop accordingly when the time comes. And maybe the move that I'm looking for is only a move back up into here. Maybe it's just a move somewhere in here instead of considering a move higher, right? So this is all conditional to you know, depending on where ETH finds that bounce, and it really depends on ETH BTC actually reclaiming and holding this level. But I think if we get that, man, I don't know, it's looking interesting to me. And of course, BTC has to find some kind of a floor at some point. It has to find some kind of a floor for any of that to happen. Yo, what's up, man? Nobody's looking at Melania? Dude, why are you looking at Melania? I will tell you guys, I'm pretty bullish on World Liberty Fi. There's a lot of risk in this, so you know you'd have to size that appropriately. But I think it's World Liberty Fi has a clean setup. What I mean by clean setup is not that it's guaranteed to pump. It's not that clean setup doesn't mean that it can't come down and stop me out. Clean setup doesn't mean that it's guaranteed to go to this target. Clean setup just means that I have a clear invalidation level. I know where I don't want to be in the trade, and I have a clean potential target. I know where I'm looking to take the trade up to, roughly. Like that's all a clean setup means. And I have a good clean entry or a condition for why I would enter that trade. That's all a clean setup means. It doesn't guarantee that the trade's going to play out. Doesn't mean I'm not going to lose money if it comes down here and stops me out. Doesn't mean any of that. But it's a clean setup in that from a risk to reward and a risk management perspective, I can look at this and say, yeah, I can see the case for an entry here. This is where I want to get out of that trade at a loss. If it does come down here, this is where I'm willing to take the slap on the wrist and say, okay, boom, I'm out. I was wrong. And then this is where I'm looking to take the trade to. If it does hit, this is where I'm going to hold it. I'm going to hold it up to this point. That's what a clean setup means. So I am looking at World Liberty Fi. I've tweeted about it a little bit. The reason for this one is simple. The reason for this one is simple. This here, let me help you out. Let me help you guys out really quickly. If you saw that at the top of a chart, would you be bullish on more upside, or would you be thinking that this is potentially a reversal and that this chart is going to start coming down? You'd probably think that, the latter, right? You'd think, oof, that was probably the top. This thing's probably going to start heading down. Well, what is the opposite of that when it happens at a bottom? It means it's likely going to start trying to go up higher. Does it mean it can't come down more? No. Does it mean it's guaranteed to happen? No. Does it mean that this is absolutely not going to come and take this low? No. It just means that this little 3 candle formation has the potential to go higher. And, you know, in this case, if we're looking at it through the lens of purely risk to reward, right? No, that's not the right long position. This one, right. So this, if you're currently looking at it from risk to reward, there's the possibility for you to take a 15% chance, right? So this is what you're risking 15%. You risk a 15% loss to potentially make a 72% gain. That's all that is. It's almost a 5-to-1 risk to reward. It's a good risk to reward. It really is. It's a favorable risk to reward. It's not a guaranteed dunk, not a guaranteed winner. Doesn't mean it's not going to lose, but you know exactly what you're going to lose. You're going to lose 15% if you're wrong, or you're going to make 72% if you're right. That's pretty good. Shitty risk to reward to me is like risking 15% to make 20%. It's like, that's like 50-50. It's a toss up. There's no edge. Here you got some edge. There's some upside there. Like, it's worth taking a look at that. So when I'm looking at this, if this trade is valid for World Liberty Fi, this low that was put in last month is my invalidation. If I think this is going higher, there's no reason for price this month to go below that. So that's my invalidation, right? That's where I'm out. If it goes below that or it goes to that, I'm out. I don't want to be in the trade because I don't see this coin going up here to the target that I want to take it to if it still needs to go below that. Those two things cannot exist. If it's going to go up here in this month, right, in the next few weeks or next month, maybe a month and a half, then I think the low has to be in already. So my bet, right, the prediction, the bet that I'm taking is that I'm willing to take a chance that it goes up here, and I'm wrong, and I'm willing to lose that 15% if it comes down to the bottom. Very simple, just a very simple way to look at it. I don't know for sure if it's done. I don't know for sure if it's done to the downside, but I like that. I like that monthly chart. I really do. The quarterly still looks pretty rough, but again, it's starting to get a bit of a wick down here at the bottom. So we'll see. I think some of these are going to move. I think some of these are going to probably do okay. Let's look at Melania for Cade here. Nah, this looks, what is this, dude? This, what a horrible looking chart, man. Is there somewhere else to look at it better than here? Dude, yeah. Nah, this still looks rough. This thing still looks rough. Now, if Melania came down and took these lows again, then maybe I'll start paying attention. But right now, that looks disgusting still. I don't like it. I don't like it. Let's look at Trump. Nah, looks just as bad. Looks just as bad. Nah, World Liberty Fi is the only one out of those three that I think has a chance. The others, I don't like them. So, yo, what's up, Darren? Day scalping this guy, man. You're out there trading blows with Crank, man. Uh-oh. Oof. Almost sent that coffee down the wrong pipe there. Hate when I do that. Ooh. Check Bitcoin, see if anything's changed. Nope. Still no buy interest on BTC. Still looking rough. Nothing on Litecoin. Let's zoom in on XRP as well. Nothing on XRP. Yeah. Solana. Yeah, right. Solana in your dreams, boo-boo. This thing's destined for $20. I'm telling you guys, man. Solana's got a date with $20. It's just a matter of time. Look, I mean, tell me why this isn't just going to absolutely melt. Tell me why this isn't going to just absolutely melt. Send Solana to the basement. Yeah. I mean, look, if you were to invert this, if you were inverting Solana's chart, tell me you wouldn't be saying that this thing's getting ready to rip. Tell me you wouldn't be saying this isn't this like an Adam and Eve thing or something like that? Isn't this like super bullish looking? Like this thing is getting ready to, Solana's getting ready to go to the moon, man. Solana's getting ready to like SpaceX rocket out of here, dude. Like this thing is just about to go parabolic, dude. Like maybe there's, I don't know. Maybe there's one more pullback, right? Where this breaks out and then pulls back. But then, dude, I think this thing just rockets. Solana wants to go to the moon, man. Problem is the moon is on the wrong side of the moon, boys. You know? You're in a degen long on BTC here, man? Shoot. Yeah, you're brave. I mean, I think it's the right general area. We're just not seeing anyone step in. And at some point, look, I do think that if it steps in, it probably is going to be like at least like a 2 or 3K candle, maybe closer to a 5K candle. It could be a nice big move. You know, we're probably going to miss the absolute bottom. I will probably miss the absolute bottom. I mean, it's almost guaranteed. I know I'm not going to be fishing for the bottom. I don't like to knife catch. I'm not trying to catch the Pico bottom, Pico top. I'll wait and I'll catch kind of the reversal once it's in play. Let's look at stablecoin dominance. Any signs of a reversal? It's trying, man. It's trying. Stablecoins are trying to probably cool off here a little bit. But still. If stablecoins start kind of breaking down from here like that, then that's where we'll see that bounce on BTC. It'll just be the BTC will do that, right? BTC will do something like that. So let's watch for that. Do I think Sol to 600 this bull run or Sui to $68? Dude, I don't think Sol's going to $600, man. I think Sol's got a date with some very low numbers first, and then maybe it's got the potential. But yeah, Solana just does not look good right now, man. It's nothing personal against Solana. It's just it does not look good. And Sui, I mean, if I had to bet on one of those, that's a tough question. That's actually a really tough question. Let's go look at these. I'd probably have to bet on Sui. I think Sui is closer to a potential low than Solana is. And still, I mean, I would say Sui to $8, huh? Yeah, if I had to pick one, I'm probably betting on Sui over Solana for sure. Yeah. Solana's just got a lot of work to do. A lot of work to do. And it's got a lot of downside. There's too many people, and this is the problem with like a lot of these assets. It's why Bitcoin corrects the way Bitcoin corrects. There's a lot of people that bought Solana down here at under $25 that made a killing and that are still holding it, still holding that entry. And the market needs to get to a point where these guys capitulate. They not all of them, but a large chunk of them need to finally exit these positions that they're holding in profit, and they're going to slowly give up, slowly find them out. Like that's what's going to drive that move lower is all the selling, essentially all the capitulation of them saying, I'm out. And at some point when that stops it'll find a bottom. But I do think Solana, is really under, like I joke around a lot about $20 Solana, but it's not because it's not possible. Like there's a reason I picked $20. So I think Solana's got a date with at least 40, 45, but I would not roll out $20 or even sub 20. Ondo to $10, huh? Sheesh. ETH actually. So we were talking about Ethereum, and I'd say go back and listen to the replay of this. Like somewhere in the middle, I was talking about Ethereum against ETH BTC and why I'm now starting to pay attention to Ethereum again. And it's really this ETH BTC chart. And then, you know, looking at things like the total charts, like specifically others, total 3, these are ripping right now. I mean, I don't know if you guys have been paying much attention, but you know, this one here is total 3 excluding stables and ratioed against BTC. This thing is ripping. This one is others against BTC. This thing is ripping, dude. It's like it's trying to break higher against BTC. So this is why altcoins, specifically the shit coins, are actually doing as well as they are doing right now. Is money's flowing into these. It's not flowing into like your main total chart is going up, right? Of course it has to because it encompasses everything. But for example, like total 2 is not really doing anything, and total 3 on its own is not really doing a whole lot. But if you exclude stables and you put it against BTC, it's a different picture. But it's there's a story being told that says that money is flowing into altcoins that are pumping 50, 100%, 200%. We've seen that. And it's just not a blanket alt season like where everything is pumping all together. It's kind of jumping from one to another. So hey, you don't have to believe subs $20 sold, but the chart says there's a case for it. Whether we get it or not, I mean, that's not up to me. You know, we may not get it. We may not get it, but that chart doesn't lie. Look, the Solana one, this is the easiest way to shut up most Sol fanboys is invert it. Put it on a monthly time frame and invert that Solana chart. Tell me without lying to yourself that this thing doesn't look like it's trying to go that way as opposed to trying to go this way. It ain't trying to go this way, brother. Solana's trying to go that way right now. How far it's going to make it, I don't know. But put Solana on the quarterly chart. Put Solana on a quarterly chart. Tell me this thing that basically built a 2-year sideways range hasn't now broken out of that range and is accelerating in the opposite direction. Look at volume profile. Where are the areas of interest for the volume profile? You got a huge gap here. The point of control of this node here is right at $20. You've got this massive gap right here, this fair value gap from that vertical move that Solana did when it pumped. That move goes all the way down to $20. I'm not yanking your chain. I'm not just making shit up either. There's a reason I said $20. And look, a lot of people will be in absolute denial about this, but everyone's familiar with this altcoin long setup right here. Big move down, consolidates, breaks out. Sometimes you get a retest, right? Do you not see that? Do you not see Solana doing exactly this, but it's inverted? It's inverted. It's doing the exact setup that we're all so used to trading. Everyone trades this. Everyone will agree with this. Big move down, period of consolidation, right? There's your period of consolidation. There it is. This is how we long the market. We look for things that have sold off massively, are consolidating or building a base. Sometimes there's like a fake out to the downside, and then that's your entry. This had a couple fake outs to the downside, had some opportunities there to sell. No one sold. Came down to 2021 levels right here, right? Did exactly that. But most people aren't looking at Solana on a high time frame, like on a 3-month. Even on the monthly, you can see it. There's your altcoin long setup. Solana is going to the moon. The problem is the moon is not a number that most Solana fanboys are ready to digest at this time. That's just what the chart's showing me. That just is what it is. People thought I was crazy, but I publicly was pretty loud at the high that Solana was done. I spent a lot of time looking at Sol BTC, Sol ETH, Sol against total, Sol against others, Sol against everything else. This was the most obvious distribution ever that I've seen in the crypto markets. The most obvious distribution. Everyone said it was accumulation up here. It was distribution. It was textbook distribution at the highs. Beautiful, massive rally. The opportunity for Solana was down here. This is where the applause is for the people that bought it down here. People that bought it down there and then sold and distributed up here. Those people, man, GG's, congratulations. You deserve all the applause. The people that bought up here because they thought it was going to 600, 1,000, 2,000, whatever they thought it was going to, you got caught in the distribution. You bought from all the guys that sold that had bought at the lows. The guys that actually bought the dip, they sold you their bags up here, unfortunately. And you can't take that personal. You just have to learn from it. You have to learn from the fact that you acquired your Solana position during a distribution phase where the people that bought the bottom were taking profits. It's just a learning opportunity. It's a lesson. We've all done it. I've done it. But it doesn't change the fact that this is exactly what that was. Everyone was calling for so much higher here when something as simple as looking at Solana's market cap was telling you that this was also topping out. You could have looked at Solana's market cap and you could have seen the clues. The clues were in this. The clues that were in the market cap was starting to trend down well before the price ever did. So, yeah, it was there. The signs were there, man. Yeah, we'll see you later, DDT. Hey, you guys call it how you see it, man. If you think 40 to 50 is the bottom, that's why we're all here. We're all here to speculate on that, and the market's going to reward those that get it right and penalize those that don't, man. I'm no exception to that. Am I a fan of Arrow? I haven't looked at it recently, but maybe we'll look at it tonight on the streams that I do on my personal page. We'll look at it later. I think there's a lot of opportunity, guys. There's going to be a lot of opportunity to make a ton of money, but we have to just see things for what they are, not for what we want them to be. There's a lot of people that have been in absolute denial that Bitcoin is in a bear market, that Bitcoin is correcting, that Bitcoin is going lower, that these rallies are bearish. They've been in denial. Their denial does not change the fact that this is happening, right? Just because you don't believe in it and you don't want to accept it does not change the fact that it's happening with or without you, baby. This is happening, man. So the same thing is going to happen with all the other things that are going to correct, all the other things that are going to bottom. For example, let's say here's a bullish take on that. My current view is that ETH BTC is trying to find a bounce. There's a lot of people that are in denial of this. There's a lot of people that are saying there's no way Ethereum can go higher. Ethereum is toast. Ethereum is old technology. Ethereum is going to zero. Ethereum has no more use case, all that stuff. Maybe they're right. Maybe they're right. But let me tell you something. They also said the same thing last year when it bottomed at 1,400 and then went all the way back up to $5,000. Everyone was saying that was the narrative. The narrative was ETH is dead. It's got no use. No one uses Ethereum. It's a failed project. Sol, Sui, all these other things are way better than Ethereum. No one wants gas fees, all that type of stuff. It's still rallied, right? It's still rallied against that. And during this entire move up, people were still saying, nah, this is a fake out. This isn't happening. This is just a trap, blah, blah, blah. And it still made the move anyways. We have to learn to separate what we want, what we can rationalize, and what we want to justify from what's actually happening, because the facts on the chart are the facts on the chart, whether we like them or not. That's the difference between an analyst and a trader who pivots with the information and someone who ties their identity to their belief system. I believe that Sol is the future of finance and it can never go to $20 and it's going to $1,000, and you tie your identity to that. I'm the Sol maxi, I'm the Sol believer, I'm the this and this and that. And then anytime the chart is getting red, you're taking a hit to your ego. And anytime anyone criticizes that, or anytime someone says, well, look, the chart's actually showing that this and that, you take it personal. Why? Because you turned your belief into your identity. You cannot trade these markets and be successful if every time you have an idea, it becomes your identity. Your identity needs to be separate from your ideas, because the market changes day to day. Trends change day to day. Information changes day to day. Imagine if every day you have to be changing who you are, your belief systems, like all that. That's stupid. So you can't tie your identity to these things. Those are the people that look foolish. You end up being the bag holder. You end up being the guy who denied something that was obvious. And then when you finally accept it, the move is done. It's done. So just be careful, guys. Don't tie. You gain nothing by tying your identity to a coin, to an ecosystem, to a thesis. You gain nothing. You gain nothing. There's more cons to it than there are pros to it. Don't tie your identity, who you are, to any of these things. They are technology, they're vehicles, they're things for us to use to improve our life, to do better, to gain, right? To grow. They are not us. We are not them. It is not a part of us, right? It's not one of your limbs. It's not one of your organs. Learn to separate that. They're financial instruments for us to utilize. That is it. And when they no longer serve our purpose or something changes, we have to move on. We have to move on to something else. Plain and simple. I'm not willing to go down with the ship. That's not why I came into this space. Most people come into this space to make money, and they end up joining the community and the club and staying for the kumbaya and the hugs and the high fives. And then later on, they realize that they're not making any kind of money, and they think that, something is wrong with the space. No, nothing's wrong with the space. You lost sight of what you should have been doing. You lost focus, right? You got caught up in what you shouldn't have got caught up in. Plain and simple. So, anyways, that's, that is what it is, man. That is what it is. Guys, we're over an hour. We're over an hour here. I try and keep these to 1 hour. So what we'll do is we'll continue the conversation. We'll pull up some more charts. We'll see if we get a bounce tonight. I'll be going live on my page, on my personal page at Bits of Wealth. I'll go live on that page later tonight, probably around 7 or 8 p.m. Eastern. If you want to join me then, we're going to look at some charts. We'll look at BTC again. We'll look at Ethereum. We'll look at some altcoin setups. We'll look at whatever's interesting. Take chart requests, all that good stuff. Just keep an eye on that. Make sure you're following. Make sure you're following Wolf Bitcoin. Make sure you're following myself at Bits of Wealth. And make sure you go check out our sponsor, Public, at public.com/wolf. Go take a look at what they're building and what they're offering there. But yeah, guys, with that, I'm going to call it. We'll see you on the next one. Appreciate all of you. And we'll see you guys later. Have a good one. Peace.